Welcome to Tech, Bugs and Rock and Roll, live from NDC Oslo. We thought we were going to be doing this from like the JetBrains booth or any of the booths that would let us do our silly thing. And then, yeah, here we are. They gave us a room.
We got a message saying, does anyone have another talk? And we said, well, we have this podcast we do on Thursdays. And they said, yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
And it didn't occur to us until maybe half an hour ago. So first of all, there were regular talks, right? Like in the before times where you go somewhere and they put a mic in you to talk to people. And then there were all the lockdowns and no one was allowed outside. So we figured out how to do this over the internet. And what we're doing now is we're doing this over the internet, but we're doing it live from a room over the internet. So not only are the NDC crew recording this for their channel, but we are live on YouTube and Twitter right now. So if all of you give a nice big wave to the MacBook webcam, say hello to the idiots in the chat, some of whom are in this room, but they are going to heckle us in the chat instead of asking questions as we go along.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we hang out every Thursday, Tech, Bugs, and Rock and Roll, and we talk about what we've been doing, and we talk about technology, and we talk about the news, and we talk about music and the web and software and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And people ask questions in the chat. And so we're doing a kind of
this is like episode 23
episodes.
We said at the start of this year.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yes.
No, it is. It is worthy of applause from people who are not even in the room. No, start of the year, we went, we should just talk rubbish on YouTube and then call it a podcast and put it on Spotify.
What kind of person would give up an hour of their day to watch us do that?
I don't know, but we do have regulars. I mean, there are people who tune in and they're there waiting at 4 o'clock every Thursday, and then they chat to us while we're recording it, and it goes out. The only thing in terms of editing I do to publish it as a podcast is I cut the sort of minute of silence off the start, and then I run it through this thing called RX10 Elements, which uses artificial intelligence to clean up the clicks and S's and all that sort of thing. RX10 Elements.
Is that what you do?
That's what I do.
You use artificial intelligence.
I use an AI thing
to make us sound like we know what we're doing.
To make us sound like we recorded.
So
in a
how's that
going to
work for the people watching us here in the room?
Well, they've got proper microphones.
They're going to get the raw, unfiltered experience.
Yes. It's when you go.
I'm getting people doing frantic cut your head off noises. What?
Your mic isn't working.
My mic isn't working. Which mic isn't? I'm wearing two mics.
You're quiet on the internet.
You mean the one that the one that the professionals installed on my face? This one. La 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 la.
Oh, it's just not. It's bent away from your face.
I'll tuck it in my beard like God's own Velcro. That's what I'll do. Hello. Is that working? Is that not working? Is that not working? Is there anybody here who knows? Because I've got lots of microphones, but this isn't one of mine. La 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 la.
The sound engineer is coming.
La 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 la.
And giving you a hand.
La 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 la. I just like to say this on the record: wireless anything is a massive pile of shit. Because it's not wireless. It means you need twice as many wires because you need one for the receiver and one for the transmitter. Thank you very much.
I just have to turn it on. Sorry.
And then you've got to go and turn that on.
Turn this on. Hello, YouTube. I'm using a handheld microphone on the internet.
Yeah.
Eli, could you put something in the chat? Because we've never done this on the chat before, and we don't know what's going to come up on the screen if people start heckling in the chat.
No, I've been chatting, man.
Oh, you've been chatting? Because there's a button on here called Hide Chat.
Yeah, but we're not getting the chat at all.
We're not getting the chat.
Right.
So do we have
Eli,
the chat?
You're
Let's
in
have a
charge
look
of
at
chat.
the chat. There we go. Look at that. Now if we go full screen, we can't see the chat.
Yeah.
This is you weren't expecting a precision performance out of this, right? I mean, we literally spent about 8 minutes figuring out how to make this work. All right, we're going to exit full screen.
Yeah.
And then we're going to make that bigger.
And I'm going to leave it up to you. Oh no, I can see that now.
There we go.
I'm old.
Marvelous. So Origami Marie says they can still hear Dylan. That's because the internet hears me through this microphone, which I brought from home. But the people in the room just have to rely on me shouting. Yes. All right. There we go.
So yeah, and what we do every week is we have a Trello, and then anything we see during the week that we think might be interesting, we add it to the Trello, and then sometimes it gets dragged across, and sometimes it sits in the backlog for 6 weeks, and then we go, yeah, no, that's dead. And we've actually got an icebox bit of the Trello, which is things that we have to talk about. There's like one for September this year, and I think there's one for December, where I kind of, oh, there's a thing happening, but it isn't happening yet. And so, yeah, it's really quite organized, actually, by our standards. But this week,
I got into Norway on Friday. Mark got in on Sunday. We were both running workshops here at NDC all day Monday, all day Tuesday. Tuesday night, we went up to Orchestra out near the airport, and we spent the whole evening recording music videos. And since then, we've been at a conference. So, I mean, we got some interesting stuff. So the big news story this week is Apple AI.
Yes.
And so this is
Apple AI and Elon.
Yes.
Yes.
So I saw a very nice take on this, which said that the future, if everyone is right about AI being important and not just another crypto scam hustle, then the sort of synergy that will let people make a lot of money is having a solid AI product and a platform to run it on. And so Microsoft is out there now, and Microsoft is Copilot all the things, like Copilot breakfast cereal coming soon from a Microsoft near you. Yeah. But that's cool. They got Windows, they got Copilot, they bang the two together, they got a platform now. And, Google, they've got, is it called Gemini or Bard or whatever it's called now?
Gemini, and so Bard became Gemini?
Yeah, something like that.
And they've just done Gemini Ultra, which apparently required them to burn down Bolivia to power the training process. And so I believe there's now loads of homeless Bolivians. Google's going, yes, but look, we can auto-complete your searches.
I mean, the environmental, we're going to get to a point one day where ChatGPT basically goes, look, I've just figured out how to solve climate change, but I just need one more rainforest's worth of electricity. Yes. And we're going to go, oh, we don't have any rainforests left to burn. So I will have come that close. And that'll be it.
I was reminded today of Dijkstra's quote about artificial intelligence. He said, the question of whether machines can think is no more meaningful than whether submarines can swim.
Yes.
And and then he had another one where it's like, if we could teach machines to think, then I'd rather teach them to do something better.
We have sort of entered this point in history where I spend a lot of my time sitting at my desk doing things like my taxes. And while I'm doing my taxes, I will get a message from a friend going, hey, look, ChatGPT wrote a song or painted a picture or made a poem. I'm like, this is wrong. Yes. We've got this backwards. I want to be sitting there making songs and someone sends me a message going, hey, look, ChatGPT did your taxes. And I'd be like, yes, this is the future that we signed up for. But anyway, so Apple has announced that they are partnering with OpenAI, which is very interesting. One, because, Apple have this tremendous ecosystem of products. They have iPhone, they have iOS, they got iPads, they got MacBooks, they got all that kind of stuff. And OpenAI has had this amazing product for a while, but they don't really have anything anywhere to run it other than like in a browser where you go and have little discussions with it. And I did see one feature which makes me think that somebody should have stopped and taken a deep breath. One of the features they've announced is that, so Siri, the Apple voice-activated assistant.
Yes.
They have announced that if you need to talk to Siri, but it's late at night and your partner is asleep or something, you can talk to Siri by typing in the phone screen. And I'm like, and so if you need to add an appointment to your calendar for tomorrow morning, you can pick up your phone, scroll past the calendar app, open Siri, and type in, hey Siri, please add 8 a.m. wake up call. Thank you very much. Enter, and Siri will add that's a game changer, right?
That's definitely better.
Yes,
definitely better.
Superior user experience.
Unless you can communicate with her entirely by emoji, which would probably work pretty well for Zoomers.
There are only certain emoji which have an unambiguous meaning, and I don't want to use those in conversation.
Well, that's true.
So let me ask you a question, actually. So one of my favorite emojis is the emoji with the little pair of eyes, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this, I've seen this time and time again. You're in some kind of chat, and you post a message like, hey, it looks like the website is down. And somebody replies with eyes. What do you think that means? So let's have a little show of hands here. Raise your hand if you think eyes means I'm looking into this for you, stand by. Raise your hand if you think eyes means, oh, I'm watching this. This is going to be good, but I'm not going to help. Yeah. It's about 50-50, right?
So it's like the popcorn emoji.
Raise your hand if you think eyes means I am rolling my eyes so hard at you deleting the website again, you idiot. You've done that twice this week. Yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah.
So yeah, emoji communication, not the revolution that the young people are claiming that it's going to be. But the best thing about Apple partnering with OpenAI is that Mr. Musk is very, very unhappy about it.
Yes.
Because, and I don't know what he thought he was going to get that he's not now going to get.
I think he thought they were going to, maybe he was hoping Apple were going to partner with Tesla and embody Siri in his robot that's actually a person in a GIMP suit. And so now
we talked about this, Mark. GIMP is an open source replacement for Photoshop, and Pulp Fiction was not a documentary.
Oh, okay.
We've been through this before.
But Tesla's robot was a person in a unitard or whatever it was.
I do love if you go on like stock photography libraries like Adobe Stock or Shutterstock and you ask it for like AI programming assistant, it always gives you a mocked up rendered image of a robot sitting in front of an IBM PC typing with robot fingers on a robot keyboard, which one I think there would be a better interface between the machine learning and the computers. But I guess it means they'll be able to use Siri late at night.
Yes.
They've got fingers.
Yes, that's true.
So they can type stuff onto it.
So you can send a text message to the robot and ask the robot to use the keyboard to talk to Siri to add an appointment to your calendar.
Yep.
But then we can have artificial intelligence Chinese whispers.
Alternatively, if we come full circle, Siri is driving the car, which means you just sleep in the car, and at 8 o'clock, Siri drives you to work, and you don't even have to wake up.
Yes.
And then you get there, and there's nowhere to park, but that's fine, because you get out of the car, you go to work, and Siri just drives around the block all day.
Yes.
Until it's time to go.
Yeah.
So one thing I wish about autonomous vehicles is when you go to like IKEA, you could be able to get like a little autonomous scooter to take you there. And then you get an autonomous truck to pick up your new sofa and bed and everything. You stick them in the back, and then you just tell it to go and play in the forest for a couple of hours while you go and, eat a meal or watch a movie, whatever. Yeah. And then later you just go on the app and you're like, yeah, I'd like you to bring my sofa now, and it delivers your furniture. I think that would be fun.
But no, because Elon was very concerned about the privacy aspects of Apple working with OpenAI, and he posted something like creepy privacy nightmare, and nobody here will be allowed to use an Apple product if you go ahead with this. He wrote on his social media network that exists purely to mine your personal data and use it to sell you various things and nudes in bio.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a thing about the furniture shop now, because all I know about IKEA is that in Scandinavia, they don't pronounce it IKEA.
No, it's
They
IKEA.
pronounce it properly. IKEA?
IKEA?
IKEA? Close enough? I'm getting the non-committal nods you get when British people try and speak Scandinavian. Like, please never try that again.
I was watching a thing the other week, and I thought they were just using static wallpaper for the audience, but it's possible it was recorded in Norway.
Now, that was Finland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The other AI thing that I've just seen today was they've released Stable Diffusion version 3.
Yeah.
New weights for Stable Diffusion. But when they were training it this time, they filtered out not safe for work content from the training data set, which has meant that Stable Diffusion 3 just can't draw people at all now. So if you ask it to do people, it's just, those Hieronymus Bosch paintings from like the 17th century where it's just melting flesh and weird, horrible goat creatures all over the place.
We will draw you like humans, but we have no knowledge of any anatomy which could be used for recreational purposes. So we've just skipped that from the training model.
It's like a woman lying on a beach, except it's not a woman. It's just a head coming out of another head. And you're just like, I appreciate that you don't want to train on actual not safe for work stuff, because then when you say, can you please do me a picture of a female priest, you would probably get some dodgy pictures. But I think the artificial intelligence thing that was trying to work out whether things were not safe for work or not kind of registered more than 10% flesh tone and went, yeah, no, that's probably rude. and
I mean,
filtered it
the
out.
bizarre thing about the whole concept of not safe for work and expecting an AI to understand that is it depends where you work.
Yeah.
Because the absolute worst stuff out there in the entire world that is not safe for any work at all, somebody out there does that for a job.
Yes.
And so, you know, not safe for work. It's like, well, where are you working at the moment? You know, please pick from the drop-down list. But
yes.
So yeah, AI, and and Musk is upset. And I saw a very interesting analysis which said the reason he's upset is that he was really hoping that the Twitter and X, it's Grok, isn't it? Is
Grok.
their
Grok,
thing.
yeah.
But now Grok has no platform. The only place Grok is going to be able to run is on Twitter, x.com. You remember XCOM Apocalypse, like the game from the 90s?
Yes.
And now it's right there, x.com, and everyone's like, la 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 la, this is fine.
Yeah. It is turn-based as well. We make ourselves laugh, even if it's not making any of you laugh.
The internet's laughing. Look, like you can see the hilarity in the comments.
Marie, humans can't even reliably
draw humans without studying mostly nude humans for a while.
That's not true. We have those little wooden puppets that we use to draw.
Is any of you folks staying in the Clarion Hotel here? Has any of you got the little wooden hand model? Has any of you not made a rude gesture with it and left it in the window pointing across?
Yeah,
yeah,
to the other window.
Yeah, I got like rock and roll horns with mine, but I think I'm the only person who did that.
Yes.
So,
and I've got a dog smoking a pipe wearing a trilby coming out of the wall.
I got a sheep.
And the worrying thing about that is like somebody shot that dog and it looks so cute. How could you shoot a dog that's smoking a pipe and wearing a trilby?
It's not a real dog.
Oh, that's right.
That's all right.
Okay.
It's a false dog put there to make you feel at home.
It's been a long week.
I'm familiar. It's all right. There's a dog on the wall. I'm relaxed now. It's quite a nice hotel, actually. So one of the things that I've seen, this kind of popped up this morning, but it's an idea I've had in a while. How many folks are familiar with the architectural style known as REST?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think I just saw Mike Hadlow and Ian Cooper were talking about this morning, and they're like, yeah, REST is basically dead, and that's fine. Like, we gave it a good run, but OpenAPI won. And I've been thinking this for a while. Like, it's probably time for us to turn around and go, you know what? One, hypermedia turned out not to be the solution to all your API problems. But the reason I'm quite keen on that is I've been the guilty party. I've been the REST purist, going, if you don't have hypermedia as the engine of application state, you don't have a REST API. But now I'm like, you know what? If you're not doing GraphQL and it's not XML, then yeah, that's REST. I don't care. That's fine. You can do that. I think it's time we all chill out a little bit about the whole REST thing. What do you think about it?
I mean, I have, back when there were people going, oh, this is a proper RESTful API, it's hypermedia and everything else. And you would get a response back that was just like the name of the thing, which was like 16 characters, and then 0.5 megabyte of links to other things that you could. And you're just like, this may not be the most efficient use of the internet.
Yeah.
If you just publish one document that says this is how the URLs work, and I can download that once and then write code, then yes. The point I think that everybody missed was, I nearly said Noel Fielding, which is the guy from the Mighty Boosh. I have.
Do you folks know the Mighty Boosh? You ever see the It Crowd?
Yeah.
You know, what's his name? The goth system administrator.
The vampire. Richmond the vampire.
So Richmond from the It Crowd is, or the IT crowd. That's him, Noel Fielding.
Noel Fielding.
Not him, Roy Fielding.
Roy Fielding.
Chief scientist at Adobe.
And this was his PhD thesis. And it's very rare that somebody's PhD thesis turns out to be a thing that we should actually do. And he wasn't saying, here's a really good idea. It was kind of a distillation of how the internet works. He was kind of analyzing HTTP and web pages and HTML and hyperlinks and all that sort of thing. And then a bunch of people picked it up and went, oh, so this is how we should do APIs.
Yeah.
And I think Roy Fielding, in the way that you probably would if a whole bunch of people just picked up something you were doing and went, let's raise this man on high and bear him to a palace where he may sit in dictatorship over all of us.
Or make him chief scientist at Adobe.
That works chief scientist at Adobe. But yes, he was never kind of going, this is a really good way to do APIs. He was going, this is how the internet works.
Yep.
And I mean, if I'd been one of the people on the PhD panel, I would have been sat there going, I know. Try again. Can you defend your thesis? Yes, the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's but no, it was particularly when you had the real purists, the real kind of screeching. If it's not exactly this, then you are the worst person ever.
Now,
so I'm glad to see the back of it.
The one thing that I am going to add here, because if we don't, we're going to need to rewrite one of our songs, and I don't want to do that. Is that I think one of so if any of you folks work with like GraphQL or the XML RPC, if you look at the network logs for that, it's post, here's a response, post, here's a response, and all you've got is posts, and all you've got is okay.
It's always 200,
and so the post never tells you what you asked for, and the okay never tells you what you got.
Yeah.
And I think that the idea of, well, if you get something, you're getting it. And if you post it, you're doing something, and delete and put and this kind of, I think there's still a huge amount of value. And that I think OpenAPI is the right balance between the sort of the purist, you have to have hypermedia, because you can put links in OpenAPI and it works. And the Swagger tooling supports that now.
There's one thing wrong with OpenAPI, which is you have an endpoint and then you have an HTTP verb method. Never sure which one of those it is. So you've got your address and then post, and that's it. And then you have your description of what that does. But actually, one of the things you might want to do is post to the same endpoint a JPEG and also some JSON, and do those as two. And then different things will happen depending on what it is. And it doesn't go down to that level. But OpenAPI 4.0, which is currently called Moonwalk, I think, or Moonwalk. But yes, that sort of switches things around. And so you have the description of your API endpoint, and then you have the address underneath it, and then you have different media types and all this sort of thing. And then that will make it work.
Yeah.
And then someone will probably come along and go, no, gRPC, all the things.
Which there are worse solutions.
Although, so I'm working on a thing. I'm not ready to share it yet, but it's going to be awesome, and it's going to put several other companies out of business, and I'm going to be a billionaire. But
narrator, Mark was not, in fact, going to be a billionaire.
No, Mark will never be a billionaire. Mark does
except in Zimbabwe dollars.
But no, and I thought, well, I should use gRPC because it's like faster, and I want it to be fast and all this sort of stuff. But one of the things it's doing is uploading binary, and you can do that with gRPC, and it supports this streaming thing, so you can sort of just do it very, very low overhead. But if you have a gRPC stream, that is locked to one server at the other end, and so you get no load balancing at all. And so I've actually switched back to just going post massive stream of bytes over HTTP, because then I can do it to 3 or 4 different servers.
I learned a thing about gRPC recently, which kind of blew my mind as like an indication of how far they have gone. So gRPC, if you've not come across it, is well, it's actually 2 things. There's protocol buffers,
yes,
which is an open source protocol developed at Google for putting binary data over the internet or over any kind of network connection. And it's very, very fast because it doesn't use like key value. It's just value.
Yeah.
And the person on the other end, they have to have the contract so they know what the values mean. And so one of the problems with most numeric encoding, like 32-bit integers, is gRPC strips the leading zeros. So 1 is 1, and 2 is 2, and 3 is 3, and they're all very small. But -1 in a standard signed int 32 is actually a very big number because it's like 4,800,000,000 and something.
Yeah.
So gRPC uses something they call zigzag encoding. 1 is 1, but -1 is encoded as +2. And then +2 is encoded as 3, and -2 is encoded as 4, so that numbers close to 0 are small, even if they're negative.
Yeah.
And, you look at this and go like, I guess, but really? Okay, I suppose. And it's the kind of thing you learn about, and then you forget about, and then just there's this voice in the back of your head going, one day that is going to bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
One day. You'll be like, I don't get it. Yesterday I had 4,800,000,000. Now I've got -$2.
Yeah.
What happened? And someone's like, did you use gRPC with your bank account? And you're like, oh.
Protobuf has 15 scalar data types, and 10 of them are integers.
Yeah.
Because you've got int32 and int64, and then you've got uint32 and uint64, which are unsigned, and then you've got sint32 and sint64, which are signed. And then you're going, but hang on, int32 and int64 are signed, and they say yes, but if you are going to have negative values. It's the SINT32 and the SINT64 that use the zigzag encoding. And then you've got fixed 32 and fixed 64, which will always use 4 and 8 bytes to encode it when it's, so if you're doing like your snowflake IDs for Twitter or something, then you use fixed because the encoding is faster, even though it uses a couple of extra bytes. It's insane. And it means they only had 5 data types left for everything else. You've got full string, bytes, float and double.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then any other data types have to be built on top of that.
So one of the things that I'm working on at the moment is, has any folks heard of Rockstar? The world's weirdest esoteric program? Well, not the weirdest, but certainly the most rock and roll esoteric programming language. So I'm porting Rockstar to .NET and running it on Blazor. And one of the decisions that you don't realize you're going to have to make is when the Rockstar interpreter adds 2 numbers together in .NET, do you get a .NET number or do you get a Rockstar number? Because .NET numbers have to exist because that's what the runtime is doing. And Rockstar numbers have to exist because those are the ones in your programs. And I was doing a Twitch stream with this the other day, and I just kind of got to this point of like, it didn't occur to me this would be a decision you would have to make.
No.
And I was like, oh, and then I and there's this lovely moment where you're like, if we abstract over all the things, then what you get is an abstraction layer over whatever the native data type of the platform you're running it on is. Because one of the jokes I always had in Rockstar that seemed like a good idea in a bar was it was going to use DEC64 numbers, which is this type. Douglas Crockford came up with this. It's a 64-bit decimal, which basically gives you enough precision to put a dartboard on Jupiter and still hit a bullseye without having. It's actually very, very cool. The reason why they don't like it is that DEC64 gives you 256 different ways to encode 0, and they are not binary equivalent.
No.
And, good game, whatever. I'm sure that's never going to go wrong. But yeah, that was fun. You just had this moment of, hang on, what kind of number? Like, it's 2 plus 2. And I'm like, well, what kind of 4 do I want here? One of mine or one of theirs?
Have you persuaded your recursive descent parser to let you put spaces in identifiers yet?
Yes.
Yay!
Yeah. So I keep getting people, I do this on Twitch, and I keep getting folks who know about programming drop into the Twitch stream, and they make sensible suggestions. And I have to explain that this is not that kind of operation. And no, I'm not going to use parentheses for expressions because you don't put that in lyrics. And but yeah, I figured it out. I've got the thing. And the fun part is that in almost every language, C, Java, C++, it starts with the language as a series of tokens with white space between them. And you work up from there. And then I'm like, well, some of the tokens have got white space in them, but also sometimes you don't have white space between the tokens because you can use a possessive apostrophe in assignment.
Yes.
Like instead of saying X is 4, or X is a bad example, you can say, like, I can't think of a word here.
Like Dylan's.
Yeah. You say, like, Dylan's 9, and that's an assignment, which means there's no space between the Dylan, the apostrophe, and the S.
Yes. Sorry, I just seen this from Eli. The only problem with OpenAPI Moonwalk is you have to write your code backwards.
But it looks like it's running forwards,
I think it's a Michael Jackson joke. Yeah, very good, yes. Yeah, I like that. I would get up and try and do a moonwalk, but nobody needs to see that.
Did you see the thing, Smooth Criminal? They had a stunt stage.
Really?
Yeah, so Michael Jackson on the Bad Tour in like 88, 89, all of the performers, they had these special dancing shoes which had like a metal horseshoe inside the heel, and there were these pins on the stage. So they danced to a certain spot, and they basically would lock their shoes in, and then they could lean forwards to about 45 degrees and back up again without falling over.
All those... Still, the calf strength you must need to get yourself back up. I would just be like, no, I'm staying. It's just me. Just use me as a table now.
We've reached the age where a beanbag is a major commitment. Like if I'm getting in there, I'm getting in there for an hour. I'm not getting up in a hurry. So
we're going to open this up to questions in a minute. I just want to talk about the other thing that we've done today, which was a first for us. We were actually doing a sound check on the big stage there because we're going to be being line breakers later on for the party.
Did any of you folks randomly hear somebody playing a French horn in the expo area? Yeah, we got a couple of hands.
That was literally the only audible bit of the whole sound check because this is our first gig where we're going to be using in-ear monitors. And so we've all got these like things hooked over our ears and plugged in like that. And we're all doing this and we can all hear us. And the sound guys on the desk at the back can hear us, and we're all going, "Oh yeah, that sounds good."
So I just want to say,
else.
Renee has just posted in the chat, "I've heard that." And I don't know whether Renee says he's heard about Michael Jackson or Renee heard Eli sound checking their horn.
Yes.
Now, Renee's in the Netherlands, but it is quite a loud horn.
It is quite a loud horn. But yes, so yeah, we're doing all these sound checks and everything. But it's, as we were saying sort of at the start, we've gone wireless in-ear monitors. Everybody's got wireless in-ear monitors, and we've got 3 times more cables on the stage than we've ever had before. Because it used to be just wire to thing, done.
There's this process. When I was packing up all my kit to get here, it's like, right, I've got to make sure I've got all the right gear and it works. So first of all, you put on your headset microphone, which hooks over your ears. And then you put the monitors in your ears. And then you put on your guitar. And then you realize you need to check something. So you put your glasses on to look at the small print. And then you realize you can't remember how to get out of all the stuff you just put on.
Yeah.
You're like, that won't come out. Oh.
And then you put a guitar on over that. And
yes.
you're like, no, now everything's trapped under the straps. Now I need to undo all of this and put it over the strap.
I'm pretty sure
that you can't take your guitar off until,
That's how King Gordius invented his famous knot.
Yes.
Was getting set up for a show. But anyway, we're going to be on the main arena stage later, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. And then tomorrow night, we're going to be at Brugata, which is just around the back of the Spectrum. And we're doing a free NDC Oslo after party. So we're going to be playing a couple of sets. And it's the first time that our band has ever played anything which isn't a conference party.
Our band.
Because at a conference party, all the people there are probably nerds or nerd adjacent, and they know what the thing. But tomorrow night, we're probably going to get some random Norwegians having a Friday night out, walking in, going, they're playing AC/DC, but they don't know any of the words. This must be so embarrassing for them. So if you want to see that, come along tomorrow.
Kind of walking past the door and hear it, HTML. Hang on, what?
All right, folks, let's open it up. Ask us anything.
Preferably topical, and then if you don't, I'll sing. And you don't want that.
So you got a choice.
Yes, hello.
So, a question.
Yeah.
In this conference, there are so many panels, and sometimes you have conflicting agenda.
Yep.
Do you prefer attending something that is totally new to you, or something that you know a bit, and when you think you can learn something more?
So that's a good question. So the question is, at a conference like this, there's a whole bunch of tracks and channels. And do you choose something that is completely unfamiliar to you, or do you choose to go to something you know a little bit about? So one of the things that I really enjoy doing, there's 2 things I always look for on an agenda at something like NDC. One of them is if there's a topic that, when you're like, oh, I should really learn about that. I don't know what it is, and you just haven't got around to looking it up yet. And you see there's a session about that, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go along. I'm going to give it an hour of undivided concentration and see if at the end of it. And there's a lot of, particularly, NDC, I think, selects people who do this very well.
Yes.
They're like, I'm going to get you from 0 to the point where you can now go away and look up the things you need to know to take this further. And so I look out for those kinds of sessions about all kinds of things. And the other one that I quite enjoy is if there is a presenter who I know well doing a topic that I think they're going to have an interesting perspective on. I'll tend to go along and watch that. There's a lot of, in the industry, there's a lot of hype around things. At the moment, machine learning, there's a lot of good research in it, but also there's an awful lot of, I have no safe for work language to describe what I think about some of it. And so when you see somebody who you respect, you're going like, I'm going to see what they do about this. And some of those folks do a really good job of, what about you, Mark? How do you choose what to watch?
I prefer to go and see talks about subjects that I know an awful lot about, just in case they're wrong. and then I subtweet them all the way through. And I tag them in the tweet so that when they finish their talk, they'll read them all and feel bad. No, I really like people I know are like super expert on something, and when they're doing like a deep dive. One of my favorite talks that I ever saw here was in the early days of .NET Core, and it was in one of these sort of rooms here, and they had Damien Edwards and David Fowler, and they were talking about the performance stuff that they had done with like Ben Adams.
We got fan mail. Look at this.
Wow.
So Minchie says, Mark, you are my favorite internet programmer. Sorry, Dylan, you're a rock star brackets 2.0. All right.
Oh.
But Mark there's your hero. There you go.
I think that's unnecessary.
Actual fan mail.
I think it's okay to like us both equally.
You've got validation after all these years.
But no, I like to find people who are cleverer than me and watch them talk. It's tough, obviously.
So Eli has just commented, Steve Sanderson's AI talk was excellent. I didn't see Steve's talk this morning.
Yes,
but
I mean, watching Steve talk about anything.
I've never seen Steve talk about the same topic twice, and every topic he's ever talked about has left me going, wow. Like that's some, I'm going to go and look that up.
Yeah, at NDC
really
London, I watched Steve's talk about WebAssembly. And I mean, apart from anything else, the stuff he was doing as demos, your average mortal speaker wouldn't dare try any of that level of stuff. It's kind of like, I've got some Go code and some Rust code and some TypeScript code and some .NET code, and I've written add in one of them, subtract in another, multiply in another, divide in another. I'm going to include them all into a WASM microservice. And he did it all live coding, and it all just worked. But yeah, so that's
Steve Sanderson invented Blazor on a train.
Yeah.
Just, you want to know what caliber of developer we're dealing with. It's like, I wonder if I can make the .NET runtime run on WebAssembly. I've got a couple of hours, and boom, there it is.
Yeah.
So,
but no, I always.
But Scott Guthrie invented ASP.MVC on an aeroplane.
He did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Have you ever invented anything in an inappropriate situation? I invented Rockstar in a pub.
I've probably invented. Oh, I invented blue curacao and cider as a cocktail. And then I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I was violently ill and it was blue. And I was just sat there in a complete panic, wondering whether I should call an ambulance because I had no memory of inventing that cocktail. And it was only when I woke up the next morning, I was like, I threw up and it was blue. And people went, yes, you invented blue curacao and cider.
I used to spend a lot of time at a thing. You folks know Hackspace is. Like a bunch of people get together and they take over a warehouse and they fill it with salvaged equipment. And the London Hackspace, when it used to be in Hackney, I used to go there a lot. And a bunch of folks turn up one evening and they're really excited because they found a gene sequencer in the bin. And like the genetics research department. Yeah, like the genetics research department at Imperial College London was getting rid of an old gene sequencer. And so they wumbled this thing and brought it back and were setting it up. And I'm like, what are you going to do with it? And one of them said, we want to splice jellyfish DNA into hops to make glow-in-the-dark beer.
Yes.
And I was like, if that goes wrong, what are you going to tell the hospital when you get there? You know, you keep doing luminous puke and they can't stop. And they're like, have you eaten anything unusual? And you're like, yeah, about that. Like, just, you know.
I'd be more worried that it was going to escape. And it's just like your hop jellyfish thing would go and turn the oceans into beer.
There is
not necessarily bad thing, obviously.
There's a wonderful social media account called Fesshole. And you know, a website called Beta that's been around forever, B3TA, Internet Institution. And the folks behind Beta set up Fesshole. There's an anonymous Google form where you can confess to things. Yeah. And then it picks the best one and it tweets them and posts them on threads. And one popped up this morning from someone just going, I made some homebrew, but it didn't taste very strong, so I drank it all. I woke up at 3 a.m. in my boxer shorts, 21 miles from my house. I don't know how I got there.
Yes.
And
we should just put a disclaimer there. Beta, B3TA, is not suitable for anybody born after 2000.
Yeah.
You sensitive little flowers.
Folks, audience, any other questions? I can't believe it. Either we've achieved enlightenment or someone's got their hand up and we can't see it. I tell you, if you've got a question, switch on the torch on your phone and wave it so we can see the light.
There's somebody up at the back there.
There's somebody up at the back there. Yes, you'll have to shout.
Loud. Hello.
Hello.
Please moonwalk behind you. You have space.
What?
Moonwalk behind you. You got space.
I'm not moonwalking. No. I'm 51. I couldn't moonwalk when I was 16. I'm not doing it now.
Come to Brugata tomorrow night, and in the second set, once we've delivered all our obligations, and it doesn't matter if Mark has to go to the hospital, we will attempt to moonwalk and see what happens.
Yeah.
But
I would.
We've already lost one member of the band this week. Alex Dunn fell downstairs and broke his tailbone, so he literally can't come to Oslo because he broke his ass.
Yes.
So And we got band code names, so we weren't coming up like I'm going to be Blues Breaker, and Mark's going to be Brain Breaker, and Heather's going to be Icebreaker, and we decided that Alex is Ass Breaker.
Yeah,
And we're going to get him an Ass Breaker NDC Oslo T-shirt and send it to him because he couldn't make it.
that's fun. Oh, that's true. I did invent BS slang.
You did.
Yeah, and then people went off and tried to implement it.
So
yeah.
it's been generally proposed, like, you've really made it in technology when there is a law named after you, right?
Yes.
And so I'm going to propose now that Rendell's law is you can't come up with anything so dumb that somebody won't implement it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mark did a thing. It was Build Stuff 2014, wasn't
Yes,
it?
yeah.
The worst programming language in the world ever. And a couple of weeks later, someone went, yeah, I implemented BS.
There were 3 GitHub repos at one point, and one of them got really. They had a parser. They had a Alexa and a parser.
Yeah.
And then they stopped.
Yeah.
And they went, no, this is really not as easy as I thought it was going to be.
It is.
Turns out even making terrible programming languages is actually quite tricky.
I mean, Rockstar, when I built that was a parody spec. It was comedy writing. It wasn't supposed to be real.
Yeah.
And not only did someone implement it in a weekend, but they did it in Scala.
Yes.
Because, yeah.
And there are like 8-9 different implementations now. Someone's done it in Rust.
Yeah.
Yes. But
the lovely thing is all the implementations, they have rock band names. So the Rust one was called Maiden because Iron Maiden and Iron's rusting.
Yeah.
There was a Python one called Whitesnake for a while. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
And the Ruby implementation was called Kaiser because Ruby by Kaiser Chiefs. And the one I'm doing in .NET at the moment is going to be called Starship because there's that line in We Built This City on Rock and Roll about someone's always changing corporation names. Yes. And if that's not the .NET runtime, I don't know what is. So, so we had a very sensible question about how do you choose conference sessions. We had a very silly question about whether Mark's going to do a moonwalk. Yeah. Do we have anything kind of in the middle? Or, we throw the net open here. Yes.
Just so you know, submarines fly through water, they don't swim.
Submarines don't swim, they fly.
They fly?
Yeah.
That's what it's termed as, because they got the
Oh, they have a yoke thing, don't they? Yes, that's true. That's a very good point.
There's an interesting corollary to that, because submarines don't swim, they fly in water, and bumblebees don't fly, they swim in air. A bumblebee has no aerodynamics, but it's small enough and light enough that it basically treads air as though you were treading water, and that's how bumblebees fly.
Yes.
The way that they steer is they have a little circuit wired into their tiny little furry black and yellow brain that knows that all of the things, basically they have constant parallax encoded in hardware, and that stops them bumping into stuff, because if they fly too close to an obstacle, the right-hand side starts scrolling faster than the left-hand side, and they just steer away from it. And when they want to land, they just throttle down the parallax, and that lands them on the nearest flat surface. Bees came up with that, and we came up with ChatGPT.
Yes. Yeah. No. Have you seen the Eddie Izzard doing his bit about bees, doing the found honey dance? It's just, if you haven't, just YouTube Eddie Izzard bees and honey would probably turn up. I'm not going to try and do it because I will wreck it. Yes, it is hilarious, as is everything that man's ever done.
Any other questions, folks? So Mark had an item. If we have enlightenment out there, Mark had a thing about elephants.
Oh yes.
Tell us the elephant story, Mark.
This was on the on my Feedly today, on my RSS feeds. Apparently, elephants refer to each other by name. And so they've done a study and they've listened to the noises that elephants make, and they analyze them with AI, because AI is good at working out language and what language means. And so if you feed animal noises into it, it can identify repeated noises, and they have matched that up with video. And when an elephant sees another elephant, it makes the same noise every time it sees specifically that elephant, which means that elephants probably have names and they know each other's names. And I just think that's completely brilliant.
So one of the most wonderful things that I've ever seen is like parent elephants disciplining baby elephants.
Oh, yes.
Because baby elephants love to play and they roll around and they splash dirt and water. And at some point, mummy elephant basically, and like, I'm wondering now if elephants have like a full name. They're like, when baby elephant
like
is
surnames,
just like,
a middle name.
like when it's just, time to come for dinner, it's like Jonathan, and when baby elephant just pushed other baby elephant into the canal, it's like, Jonathan Livingston Elephant, you come back here this second. So clearly further research required on that.
Yes, I think we should, I'll get back to the people who did the study and see what they say. And I wonder if African and Indian elephants met up, if they would have
Accents.
and like different names. Yes, I suddenly sense I'm on very thin ice here, actually. Yeah, I'm going to stop going down that pathway.
I have heard that animals do develop accents.
Yes.
There are particularly birdsong. The same species, people can identify where it's from by the intonation of how it sings the same songs and things.
My eldest offspring for the last 5 years has been trying to teach our dog French. And they have got as far as "assez," and the dog will sit.
I was teaching the dog to understand French.
Teaching the dog to
Not
understand,
speak French.
not speak French. No,
Okay.
dogs can't talk.
Yes, but I know that your offspring are notoriously ambitious.
Well, that's true. They
And
are.
if anyone was going to pull that off, it would probably be them.
So one day, I'm going to study linguistics at university, and then I'm going to do a master's, and then I'm going to teach dogs to speak French. Because actually, by that point, AI will be doing everything else, so I might as well.
Was it the Tintin comics where they translate them into
Wah-wah,
different languages?
wah-wah.
Yeah, and the dogs say "wah," not "woof."
Yes, yeah. French dogs don't say woof; they say wah wah, which actually is probably more accurate.
Yeah. This is the content you all paid for, right?
Yes.
Mark on stage.
That's
trying
it.
to-
You
trying to
don't
do an
ask
impression
questions. This is what you get.
of a
Dog
dog speaking
impressions.
French.
Small dog. Big dog.
That's actually pretty good. I think we can around for that.
Misspent life, actually, that one. Yes. Yeah. So, anybody, seriously, because I'll start doing cats.
Yes. You need to shout louder.
Someone pass that down.
Oh, I could throw the mic, but I might hurt somebody. Why are there no animals at NDC? So I believe the canonical research on this was that at ACDC last year, Request Metrics brought an actual sloth, because their mascot is this cute little cartoon sloth.
Yeah.
Because sloths are slow, and want your website to be slow, which kind of means it's a stupid mascot. I'd have picked like a greyhound or something that goes fast. But the crew, and I have no idea. Like, I talked to someone who said, "Oh, they got in touch with the wildlife rescue," and they were like, "Yeah, actually, we have a sloth. Do you want us to bring it down, and it can meet people on the booth and everything?"
Yeah.
So
and then you can justify it by going, "It's a rescue."
It's got to do something. Yeah, there's this weird thing happens that there's all these countries in the world where it is illegal to keep certain animals as pets, but people do it anyway, and then they get caught, and then the wildlife people are like, "Well, great. Now we have a sloth in Kansas City, Missouri. We can't release it into the wild, one, because we are nowhere near the Amazon rainforest, and two, it would have no idea what to do." And the sloth is the animal that is so dumb that they hang upside down from tree branches. And I need you to hold the mic for a second. And so they'll do this thing with their hand, and then they'll do the other hand. And sometimes they grip their own hand, thinking it's a tree branch, and then they let go with the other one. And they just fall, and they lie there for a bit, and they're like, "Yeah." And then, like, after lunch, they get up and go back up the tree again. Yeah.
This is the pinnacle of my career, being a mic stand for telling people's sloth impression. Oh, dear.
Eli says, as Dylan collected half the line breakers, they're rescues. They were being illegally kept as pets in software companies. And I was like, well, we can't release them into the wild. Think of the consequences.
Yes. One of the fun things you can do if you're ever incredibly bored is find like a wiki or something with all the laws for a country and just search for animal names and
find
out what it's illegal to do with various animals in various parts of that country. It's illegal to take a giraffe for a walk on a lead in somewhere in Arkansas in the United States. And the only reason that there can possibly be a law for that is that somebody did it, and then it caused a problem. Because if somebody did it but it was fine, then, and you're just like, what did the giraffe do while somebody was taking it for a walk on a lead in Armpit, Arkansas in 1867? Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah, so there's my personal favorite is LOT, Polish Airlines. If you read the small print on their baggage policy, you are allowed to travel with up to 5 dogs, cats, or ferrets, as long as they are for personal use.
Yeah.
You're not allowed, like if you've got 5, and the funny thing about that is the collective noun for ferrets is a business. And so if you have 5 ferrets for personal use,
It's a business.
technically you have a business of ferrets. Even though they're not business, they're personal use. So I don't particularly want to square that
There's
one.
only 2 things I know of that you can use ferrets for, like professionally. One of them's bad for rabbits, and the other one is very bad for your bits. And your
there's
trousers.
a third.
Is there a third?
There. So there is a thing called a cable ferret. And
yes,
a
those
lot of
guys,
people
yes.
think a cable ferret refers to some kind of clever, like when you've got a piece of pipe. So when they build freeways and roads and that kind of thing, they lay conduit, like plastic pipe underneath the road, but they don't necessarily put anything through it at that point because they want to finish grading and concreting and all that kind of stuff. And then like the cable and the telecoms people come along later and they're like, all right, we've got, so they have a lead line, like a very, like almost like a fishing line. They say, we need to get that through so we can use that to pull through the cable, so we can use the cable to pull through the fiber optic. And the way they get it through is they use a cable ferret. And everyone is like, well, that's obviously some kind of machine with like little wheels in it. It's not. It's a little ferret with a little high-vis jacket with a carabiner on the back that just loves going through pipe. And so they get the cable ferret out of its box and they clip the line onto it and they go, off you go. And it goes, and it runs through this thing underneath the freeway, comes out the other side, and they give it a treat and they take it off. And then the ferret gets the rest of the day off. And that is literally how they install fiber optic in like new build developments and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, ferrets with jobs is a real thing. So you talking about laws just reminded me of one of my favorite stories of all time, which is kind of relevant because 1, it's about Oslo, and 2, it's about technology. Does anyone know the story of Morten Harket and the electric panda? So Norway, you know, internationally has this famous reputation as being incredibly progressive when it came to electric vehicles. Because when, you know, Tesla first started rolling out electric cars, Norway was one of the few places that they were just already legal. It was fine. You know, there was already stuff on the statutes, the rule books about licensing electric vehicles. And a reason is that in 1986, a professor of ecology at one of the Norwegian universities went to Germany where there was a crackpot inventor who had built an electric car. He'd taken an old Fiat Panda, he'd removed the back seat, he'd filled it with car batteries, wired it up to a big electric motor, and was taking this thing around to, you know, trade shows and stuff. And no one was terribly interested in it. And then this Norwegian professor went, yeah, quite fancy that. So he bought it. He shipped it back to Norway. And then he phoned his friend, Morten Harket, the lead singer with Aha, Norway's, you know, finest musical export. They did the Bond theme. They did Take On Me. They did these amazing songs, 1980s. Ooh. They were huge.
Yeah, but some breath just got sucked over teeth.
Yeah.
When you said they were the finest.
Yeah, I stand by what I said. I mean, death metal is all very well, but I'm an Aha fan to the core.
I'm distancing myself from this.
So yeah, the ecology professor rings up Morten Harket and goes, hey, do you want to drive an electric car around Oslo till you get arrested? And then do it again, and then do it again. And they said, yeah, that sounds like a laugh. And they did. And Aha drove around Oslo in this electric Panda. It got impounded. The police locked it up. They tried to sell it. No one wanted to buy it. Aha bought it back and drove it around. And after like 6 months of this, the government went, you know what, just let them have their electric car. This is getting really tedious. And that's the reason why when Tesla launched, there was already licensing statute in Norway for electric vehicles. It's because of Morten Harket and an electric Panda.
I feel you missold that at the start, though.
You thought it was actually an electric Panda.
Yeah, you missed out the word Fiat.
An electric Fiat Panda.
Right. Did you see that those pandas in that zoo in China? Baby pandas.
Yes.
That were very definitely not pandas.
I've not seen this.
They were like chows or some kind. Yeah, like chows that had been dyed or spray painted black and white and just dumped in the panda cage.
I didn't see that, but I did want to see a wonderful photograph. It was a horse that was like the front half of the horse was black and the back half was white. And someone put this on Twitter with the strap line, "I defragmented my zebra." All right, folks,
Yes.
we are just about out of time. Do we have one more question before we...
I have a question.
Mark has a question.
I
It's
have a
not more of a
question.
statement,
Are
is it?
zebras white with black stripes, or are they black with white stripes?
I don't know.
No.
So
Yes? Is that your answer to that question? You can't answer an or question with yes. No, you can't.
So
No, my
the interesting
my
thing, you know-
ADHD brain won't let you. Okay.
So if you look at camouflage coloring, like a lot of fish are colored so that they're dark blue on the top. So if you're above them, you can't see them against the deep blue of the ocean. And underneath, they're very pale, so you can't see them against the light of the sky. Now, zebras, their back is black and their stomach, their belly is white, and then the stripes kind of flow across the middle. And so from underneath, if you were trying to hunt zebra from underneath, you wouldn't be able to see them against the bright sky. But my only theory is that zebra must have evolved so they can hide from birds of prey by going to goth clubs.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And actually, one more question, because you grew up in Africa.
I did.
Quite a bit. In Africa, do they have a saying, "If you hear hooves, look for zebras, not horses"?
They don't, but they probably actually they probably do, but it's probably in Swahili, so I don't know that.
There you go.
So
okay.
all right.
That is, normally we can run over by 5 or 10 minutes, but we will have somebody turning up to set up for the next talk. So we are actually going to have to finish this one on time.
So folks, thank you to everyone for coming along and spending the hour with us. Thank you to everybody on the internet for tuning in.
Yes.
This will be on Spotify next week if any of you really wants to experience this again.
It'll go up on Sunday. No, it'll go up on Monday morning next week, because I have to get back home and run it through RX Elements to clean out the misses and things. It's very hard work.
Right. I'm going to go and put fresh strings on my guitars ready for this evening. Folks, thanks so much for coming. Have an awesome time. Enjoy the rest of NDC. Enjoy the party this evening. We'll see you around.
Cheers. Bye.